These are the 10 brain-based concepts. First concept, the limbic system is the home of emotions, regulation of hormones, memories, and more. There are 4 parts of the limbic system that are important to learning and memory. They are the thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus, and the amygdala. Students, parents, and teachers alike depend on these 4 parts for survival. The thalamus controls all incoming sensory information except smell. The thalamus will then send it to other parts of the brain for processing. The hypothalamus monitors the internal systems to maintain normal state of the body. The hypothalamus controls body functions such as sleep, food intake, and liquid intake. The hippocampus is crucial for creating meaning towards something by constantly checking information related to past or stored experiences. Last but not least, the amygdala plays an important role in emotions. It ultimately regulates individuals' interactions with the environment that may affect survival, such as knowing whether to attack, escape, mate, or eat. In all, teachers want their students to remember what was taught. It is essential for a student or parent to understand and realize the connection between emotions, cognitive learning, and memory. Our next concept that is essential to brain-based learning is how the brain processes information. In order to fully examine this without any difficulty, we will take a close look at the information processing model. The information processing model shows how the brain deals with information from the environment. As you can see, information from the senses will pass through the sensory register to immediate memory and then to working memory for conscious processing. In conclusion, having a better understanding of how the brain appears to process information and learning will help teachers plan lessons that will benefit the students so that they are more likely to understand or remember, and parents to see how the environment around their child affects he or she. The third concept is the stages and types of learning. The stages are sensory and immediate, working, and long-term, and their 2 major types are declarative and non-declarative memory. In this picture, you see the stages of memory being processed and directed to 2 different types of memory. For declarative memory, it can be broken down into episodic memory, which is memory of remembering, and somatic, which is the memory of knowing. The second type is non-declarative. These are memories that can be used for things that cannot be declared or explained in any straightforward manner. This includes procedural memory, the perceptual representation system, classical conditioning, and non-associative learning. Any learner or student who attaches emotions to what is being taught will understand the material better. Teachers need to use strategies so students can be emotionally involved with the learning material. As for parents, help make the environment at home peaceful so your child can feel positive about doing their work. The fourth concept is how biological rhythms affect teaching and learning. This here is an example of a lesson plan timeline. The lesson lasts an hour long, and the key points of it are teaching new information first, because it is more likely to be remembered. It should then be followed by practice or review during the downtime. The information will no longer be new, so by having practice, it will help the learner organize it for further processing. And lastly, closure is an important time for the learner to determine sense and meaning. If the lesson plan is not broken down into time blocks, the students may not be able to retain the important information given. So new teachers, please understand the importance of your prime times and not to misuse the valuable time. Our fifth concept is transfer and the types of transfer. There is transfer during learning and transfer of learning. There are 2 types, positive and negative. Negative is when past learning interferes with the new, and positive is when it helps. Students, positive transfer is important because it will enable you to solve problems that you have never seen before or acquire specific information more easily. Teachers, to promote positive transfer, you can teach subject matter in a meaningful context or provide opportunities to practice over a spread out period of time instead of just one single study session. For the 6th concept, we will take a closer look at the brain and how each hemisphere affects what tasks we perform or what we know. We all have a left and right hemisphere. The left hemisphere monitors the area for speech. It also evaluates factual material in a rational way and detects time and sequence. As for the right hemisphere, it gathers information from images and looks for patterns. It specializes in spatial perception and recognizes places, faces, and objects. Remember that both usually work together when learning. Teachers, please design lessons that include activities directed at both hemispheres. so students can have the opportunity to develop both their strong and weaker style preferences. For the seventh concept, we will examine how the arts can develop cognitive growth. According to Elliot Eisner of Stanford University, he says that the arts will help with perception of relationships, the use of imagination as the source of content, and the ability to see the world from a more aesthetic perspective. In all, learning of the arts provides a higher quality of human experience throughout one's lifetime. For the eighth concept, which may be the biggest factor in the event of brain-based learning, is Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's original 6 levels from lowest complexity to highest was knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis to evaluation. With revisions, the new Bloom's version is a useful tool for moving students, especially slower learners, to higher levels of thinking. For our ninth concept, there are different types of thinking, one as a representational system and one as thinking and emotion, as there are processes that will help students organize the content given and translate it to a more complex processing. Teachers, in order for students to grasp and understand the material, it is vital to set up a classroom that is conducive to critical and creative thought, and to prepare lessons that require a higher order of thinking so students can achieve learning objectives. 10th, the last concept that I will discuss is the importance of a daily lesson plan. Some components to keep in mind when designing a lesson plan are input, purpose, learning objective, anticipatory set, guide practice, closure, and independent practice. All components serve as a great importance in the classroom, and new teachers can test out each one and figure out which ones they feel will benefit themselves and a student's higher order of thinking. In conclusion, these 10 concepts presented will help any learner, whether you are a new teacher or parent, to understand how the brain works and what can be done to improve brain-based learning. Thank you for joining in. Good night.